Good afternoon, Muskegon. Don't touch that dial. My name is Gregory T. Roberts, and you are watching or listening to Torn Into, your show for news, information, and more for this crisp October the 22nd, crisp day. I want to thank you guys for listening. It shows the numbers are out there. We want to thank you for listening and participating. If you'd like to participate in the questionings of our guest, Rachel Gorman, you can do that by going to 103.7 to be on Facebook or M106. I'm going to skip the weather. I'm going to get right to our guests. As you know, we have been covering the candidates for city, Muskegon and Muskegon Heights. We had the debate. I encourage you guys to go back and watch the debates. You can do that on 103.7 The Beat Facebook site. And I encourage you to be an informed voter. Speaking of voting, the voting has already started by absentee. So I think we're interviewing one of the last candidates right now because we have more information that we got to get to you. So Rachel Gorman is a candidate for city commission at large. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have her come to the table. Put your hands together for our guest, Rachel Gorman. Rachel, come in. How you doing?
Hey,
Hey.
hey, it's Friday.
It's Friday.
Hey, in Nelson neighborhood. Thanks so much for having me on, Gregory.
Thank you, because we caught up with you.
You caught up with me. I appreciate it. Oh my gosh. We're getting busy.
We get things
every day.
Things are getting busy. You and I have a lot of things in common. I need to make that clear.
Yeah.
But she won't get any special treatment. But you serve in the JCs. I was in the JCs in I was the president in 1992, the first African American president, Senator 58. JCI Senator 58006. If I don't say that, I get punished.
You do. That's a thing, listeners. That's a thing.
That's the thing. Also, Nelson neighborhood. I grew up in Nelson neighborhood. Love and Angels, and you reside in Nelson neighborhood.
Yep, been here for 7 years now.
You work for Pioneer Resources. I work for Pioneer Resources. So after this, you guys, I got Greg's number now. I'm going to be hitting him up. We're going to be everywhere together now. Right. So she has my number so I can get more involved. All right. Let's get into this interview. Rachel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, Gregory, first I want to say thank you so much for having me. Throughout this process, one thing I've been saying is my favorite voter is an informed voter. And I think you can totally appreciate, the importance of not only voting, but making sure you know who you're voting for and what issues you're voting for. When we've got ballot issues, it's critical that people show up to the polls or return those absentee ballots, but they know what they're voting for, right? Mm-hmm. And I know the Beat, the People's Radio Station, you guys, I think, have done above and beyond opportunities for candidates to get out in the community, get out to the residents that they want to represent, offering the opportunity to learn more about. So I applaud you guys for your efforts. It's not an easy task. I think a lot of people just assume these things happen. And I know the work that goes behind it. So what you're doing is really important. So I just want to say thank you first.
Appreciate it, because people don't understand. It is a lot of work, and I want to thank Lady J. I want to thank you.
I'll thank Lady J. Hunt me down on that email, making sure I got here today. She's putting in the work. Thank you so much.
I appreciate that, and Big Rob, and I appreciate Q89 as well.
Oh my God.
You're a Muskegon native. You went to Oak Ridge High School.
Well, and so growing up, right, I grew up East Muskegon, I would say, but East Muskegon County, like Eggleston Township, Eagles represent. But now that I live in the city, I stay in East Muskegon because I'm not from the eastern side of the city of Muskegon, but grew up in Eggleston Township. But I think like many people around the county, when you say downtown, you know you're going to City Muskegon. So yeah, grew up there, Oak Ridge High
Right.
School.
Right. You have a Bachelor of Science from Grand Valley.
Grand Valley State University, go Lakers. Commute, that's a long commute some days, but went back and forth from Muskegon. Actually, their Pew campus in downtown Grand Rapids, back and forth
Mhm.
a couple days a week.
Let's see, Masters of Business Administration. I'm sorry for this from Michigan State.
Hey, I'm a like I can say I'm a legacy Spartan now, but
I,
yeah,
I'm
Greg.
sorry. Oh,
No, very proud of that. I actually did the executive MBA program at Michigan State. So for 20 months, Greg, every other weekend, we had class from 6 to 10 p.m. and then all day Saturday, 8 to 5. And then I graduated actually March 8th, 2020, right before the whole world changed. We were cap and gown, lined up, ready to get our diplomas, and like COVID was kind of right. Like we were out the night before, kind of like, should we be out? I don't know. So then
mhm.
we're lined up, ready to go. And our administrators just, it wasn't a big deal at that time, but they were just like, hey, we're not going to shake hands today. So just walk across that stage, get your cover, and go. But now looking back on that, I mean, we did have people that were in China the week before for business. I mean, family, whole auditorium full of people. So now
Mhm.
looking back, it's kind of eerie how much changed that week. It's crazy.
And you work for Pioneer Resources.
Yep, I'm the new director of development for Pioneer Resources. I started with them early September this year. And for those who don't know, Pioneer, we serve populations with physical and mental disabilities and seniors, not only in Muskegon County, but in Ottawa County as well. A lot of people know us for our transportation, see our vehicles around town. They're great opportunities, again, to get those people we serve to job opportunities, important healthcare appointments. But we also do quite a bit of job placement, especially right now. Everybody needs somebody to work, finding opportunities for sometimes the population that's overlooked, getting them long-term employment. And then we have several residential homes for independent living opportunities. So
Yeah, I worked for Pioneer Resources as well. So,
it's an amazing organization.
yeah, a great organization. Now, let's get to it. Now, one of the things I want to talk to you about, you led in votes in the primary. The county, you led in donations. Some people will say when you get a lot of donations, you owe favors.
Mhm.
First of all, what do you think about that statement, and how are you doing on finances?
What I think about that statement first, Gregory, is I understand why people feel like that. And that is one reason why I'm running. Because I think there is a lot of mistrust on all levels of government, local, state, federal, mistrust on campaign finances and who's running, who's being elected, and the decisions that person who's ultimately elected is going to make. What I can say though is, we kind of talked about this backstage. I think it's one thing, one, for anybody to say, to put themselves out there and say, I want to run for office, right?
Hmm.
Two, to have the support of your friends, family, committing to like, I'll help you get those signs out. I will help you, get those door hangers out because it's work. But then I think when you have people that so believe in who you are as a person, the work you want to do to serve your community, put some financial backing behind your campaign, it's very humbling. Um, but for me, it's with no expectation about how I'm going to spend that money.
Hmm.
And to be honest, I don't know dollar amount where I've raised right now, but I know, there's other candidates running that we're not too far away from each other.
Okay.
And I think one thing people should know is on paper, you look at that dollar amount and it can be like, wow, look at that money coming in. But what I try to remind people though is, the city of Muskegon, our population is about 38,000 people, right?
Hmm.
With the money I raise, a lot of that money went to direct mailer opportunities, get postcards in the mail, especially in this COVID environment. It's kind of one of the safest ways to get information about yourself,
Hmm.
potential voters, right?
Hmm.
I've been able to do a couple mailings to 5,000 residents, and I think we can all appreciate, right? Like 5,000 people out of 38,000 people, it's not enough. But that's what I could do with those dollars. So, you know, following up with my donors, like I'm putting that money what I think is the best use, and that's what it was. And it's still to me like not enough, right, to get out there, which is why opportunities like this to meet residents where they're at, it's so crucial and it's priceless. So
Okay.
um
We have a lot of questions. Now, what I've tried to do
mhm,
for you people that have not watched the interview, I've tried to ask the people the same questions. So here we go. Um, I want to talk about qualified immunity. We live in at the time that we're dealing with some difficult issues, and George Floyd just put that out in public.
right.
After, by the way, Rachel is working, by the way, and she has to go to a meeting. So we got to get these questions in. So her interview will be cut short. But anyway, um, how do you feel about qualified immunity?
One thing about qualified immunity is that I think we all need to remember. It's not just police officers, right? Like technically the definition about qualified immunity protects government officials. So that's a kind of maybe a big two cast of a big umbrella.
Mhm.
Um, and I think again, this is an issue affecting us locally, but it's really a national issue. I think it starts at the top. And some on the other side of where I would stand would say, right, well, why what kind of person would want to go into these positions? What kind of person would want to be a police officer without some security that they're going to be covered with qualified immunity? But I guess my pushback on that, what I really struggle with, I understand that the nature, particularly with law enforcement, the nature of that job is putting you up for a lot of liability, whether that's fair or unfair. It's a different job, right, than going to an office and sitting in front of a computer.
Mhm.
However, I really feel strongly that any of us in any job we hold, we also have opportunities of liability too. There's nothing to say we couldn't get on this show right now and do something wrong. We should be held accountable to that, right?
Oh,
Like,
I'm accountable for it.
we're
Yeah.
all accountable for what we do. My job every day, I'm accountable for what we do. So the argument I think on the other side of like, well, you need qualified immunity to get the people to do the job. I don't know. Like to me, I want someone in law enforcement that wants to serve and protect their community for the right reason, that doesn't need an umbrella over them, right, in case something goes wrong. Now,
Mhm.
I know that's easier than said, but I also feel like in 2021, we've got opportunity to lessen the need for qualified immunity, right? I mean, public's when things like George Floyd are happening, like we're knowing about them because we've all got phones and cameras on them now. We can
Mhm.
talk all day whether that's right or wrong, but I don't think if you're an officer, it's gonna escape you, right? That like the world is watching, no matter what, whether like whatever setting, somebody's gonna be watching, right?
Mhm.
Um, I think with increased use of body cameras, that itself is holding officers to a higher level of accountability than we've ever seen.
Mhm.
So my hope is that qualified immunity is going to be irrelevant here soon because when the truth is on film and camera, what's on witnesses, I think some of these arguments they're gonna have a lot of holes in them. But I think also it's on us as citizens of the world, but residents in our community, when we see something like it's on us to pressure our elected officials that are representing us to push back on conversations like this. And Gregory, having conversations like this I think is when we're going to see real change in that we need accessible ways to bend qualified immunity, right?
Mhm.
That's what I think.
Okay. You have in some way, I don't know if it's planned, but you have connected yourself with Mayor Steve and Dan. Do you feel that? And the opposite side is that you have, they call it the good and the bad. You have Ken and Jack Page and other people on the other side, Rebecca. But you tied yourself with the mayor and Dan. Do you feel that they're doing a good job?
I do. Well, first, I want to say that hand to God, that is the first time I've heard good versus bad. I think everyone running for city commission right now on the mayoral level, commissioner at large, we're all good people. I know most everyone on a personal level, everyone's heart is in this race for the right reason. And I think we're all having these conversations for the right reason because we love our community so much. One, I want to start there. Two, like everything in Muskegon, we are 1 degree separated from each other. This is what I want to say publicly about my relationship with Mayor Gorman and Commissioner Dan Rins-Basivinga. Dan has actually known me since I was in college, like when I was a child, and during his time at MCC, and that relationship has just grown professionally because of that. I mean, we kind of joke for a long time. I was a student worker in the Grand Valley office at MCC where he was working. Then I was the secretary of the Chamber of Commerce when he was exiting his time with downtown Muskegon now. You know what I mean? So we just follow each other. And like we all know, you get to know people. So then living in Nelson neighborhood, Dan is my elected official, and gosh darn it, wasn't that great for me to have a leg up on my elected official to make sure the issues I cared about were being represented fairly at commission. Steve, same kind of thing. Working at the chamber, like when I started, I was the events coordinator, ribbon cuttings. Guess what? We need the mayor. So, the relationship just developed from that work. But, as far as like other people running for commission, same kind of thing. Like Ken's known me since I keep saying a kid, but really when I started my career in Muskegon, that's not a secret. And, during Taste of Muskegon, Jack Page and I, we slung beers for 4 hours together, and people would come up and be like, oh my God, here we go. And, I'm not surprised at all. Jack was the first person to say, like, Rachel and I have been friends. We're going to stay friends no matter what happens. Like, we are all in this for the right reasons. And I'm getting to know candidate St. Clair. I had not known her before, but like anything else, like we're running in the same circles, especially now working in human services. I know people that know her speak very highly of her. And so again, like I don't think voters have bad options. But that's what I can say is, as far as like who I've aligned with, it's people that I trust, people that I feel have represented me fairly in the city, and that are doing their best to mentor me along my way. The broader conversation, this is really passionate to me. Civic engagement is really important to me. The broader conversation that I've always been having is we have a lot of elected officials, local, state level, that have been in the game for too long. And my understanding of time is like, they're not going to get younger. At what point do you step back, find someone to mentor to get our next generation of leaders there, right? It's like, it is hard. Like this running is hard. I've learned something new about campaign, right, in elections every day. And it's having people like Dan and the mayor helping me understand. And that's where I just hope other elected officials in cities around Muskegon County level commissioners really think about, what does your succession plan look like? Because I think I would want to leave a legacy knowing that I've helped usher in the next generation of elected officials in Muskegon County.
Okay. We got our first question from Houston, Texas. It's Michael Anthony Smith. Hey, Mike, how you doing? He says, are you for or against qualified immunity? You danced around the question.
I think that's fair, Michael. Thanks for watching. I'm glad you're here. I just think the gut reaction, what I always like to say to people when you're wavering, if you flip a coin, how do you want that quarter to land, right? I don't think qualified immunity should be necessary for anyone. Again, we all are doing jobs where if something goes wrong, we're going to be held liable for that. And I don't think people in positions where qualified immunity exists now should need it. That's just me. Maybe that's bad. I don't know.
Let me do a pushback here. Are you for maybe a national registry where if a police officer or firefighter or anyone does something bad in one part of the state and gets fired, that person goes on a national registry of this person being say a corrupt cop?
And the purpose then of the registry being like, say they wanted to be an officer, a firefighter, a different community, that your community would know, hey, there was an issue.
Michael said thank you, by the way.
I'm sorry, Greg. What did you say?
I said Michael said thank you, by the way.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, Michael. I guess I wouldn't be against it. And I just feel like in this time of technology, like with or without a registry, I feel like those things would follow you wherever you're gonna go.
Okay. Let's talk about the housing. Everybody got this question. The mayor talked about there have been 1,000 units. Ken kind of debated that 1,000 unit issue. How do we make housing affordable for Muskegonites?
Um, Again, that's another issue that it's not only relevant in our community at a local level, but look at our country. There's a national housing crisis. So, and I only say that, Greg, because I feel like sometimes some of these issues they are so personal, but it's not isolated to just Muskegon. There's communities all over our state, especially, but this is a big conversation that no one at the federal, state, or local level has just a silver bullet of like, this is how we fix it. But don't we, as people in Muskegon, I think can all agree something we need to do something, right?
Right.
Um, I think particularly though in the city of Muskegon, we've had a history of vacant lots that have brought new development, new housing development, new neighbors to us that didn't take away from existing neighborhoods, right? Like empty lots added to the city. They didn't take away from anything. Having said that though, I talked about at the debate earlier this week when I was 22, finally got my first full-time job. I wanted to live in downtown Muskegon. I was working in downtown Muskegon. I believed in the direction of our community. And I wanted to live here. And I wasn't interested in that time in having a roommate. I wanted to live by myself. I felt like fully
Mhm.
employed. That should be an option. There was not housing options for me. And that was completely discouraging. Um, and it took some time. And I did find something at Hamilton Apartments 2 blocks away from where I live now. But again, it felt like I had done the right things. It wasn't like, again, I had a job, but there was no way I could afford some of the market rate rental apartments. And I just thought, well, if I'm not able to do this, how was someone less off than me able to do it? So I just hope people know, like, I've never forgotten that experience. And it's something really important to me. I do feel like there are more accessible housing options now, but in the same way that we are so excited about new development that's going to bring housing with housing prices higher than we've seen before, we do need to take care of those that have been here. Those
Mhm.
new neighbors coming in that aren't going to be at the high end, and who don't want right the high end. They just want to be in the community they're choosing. So
Mhm.
so that's it's a tough
When you look at the housing, the number that the city came up with a number, and what they did was they took a county number
mhm,
and said, okay, okay, North Muskegon, Muskegon Township, all these uh, higher end places and Northern Shores, and came back. Well, $1,400 is the magic number of affordable housing to get that house or get into a house.
mhm.
You think that's fair, or should we? Should they use the numbers just from Muskegon?
I don't know. It's just, we all need metrics and data to benchmark any success or unsuccess we're having in the city. So maybe it's not the best number, but is it the place we can start to have these conversations now? Maybe that's all it is for now. And again, that's where we need to hear from residents. You need to put pressure on your commissioners to say how you feel about that. That is unrealistic. That is too realistic, or it's right where we need to be.
Mhm.
Um, but then because you kind of look at other numbers too, Greg. I mean, right now, the median home value in the city of Muskegon is between 130 $140,000. Not even 10 years ago, that number was $52,000. So
And climbing.
yeah, and it's climbing. And so things move with it, but as they move, these are the conversations we need to have to talk about how that growth is affecting everyone.
Okay. When the city income tax, when they were trying to get the city income tax, and they said that they would hire more police officers, and they did, although 9 short right now, and they're trying to hire more. But they also said that when I left the fire department in 2002, we were like at 44.
Okay.
We're down like 22
Mhm.
firefighters. Do you feel that that's a fair number? And broken equipment and using other people's trucks, by the way.
Yeah, early on in the campaign, some of the leadership from the City of Muskegon Firefighter Department reached out to all the candidates with some questions about how they felt about current structures in place, quality of equipment, number of employed at the fire department. And Greg, it's just something I don't know enough about. And that was my response to them. Like, they wanted pretty yes or no questions on how I felt on things, and I couldn't give that to them without knowing. I reached back out to them, and to set up a meeting to talk for me to have the opportunity to learn more about that, and that didn't come to fruition. But I don't think anyone running for office, working at Stilton, wants to put anyone in danger of an emergency situation that happens in the city or happens in Muskegon County, because I know we have a lot of shared services between fire departments. I think that is just, again, worst case scenario. But how do we get there? That's what I want to know. In early on in my commitment to run, I've been trying to attend as many commission meetings as I can, because really, for me, in my head, like, if I get this job, I want to already be in the habit, right, of being in City Hall till 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock every other Tuesday. That's fine. It is what it is. But one thing I've noticed a lot when issues with fire department comes up that really makes sense to me, is Commissioner Ramsey often will say to the fire chief, like I'm saying, very honestly, like, I don't understand all the issues at the level of detail that you do, but help me understand, like, pie in the sky, if money wasn't an issue, what do you need? What staffing levels do you need? What quality of engines do we need? Start there, right? And then tell me what you absolutely need, though, to move on. And I think that's been a great way to help me, as someone wanting this job, to help the residents that watch these meetings understand. Like, we all have some dream vision of, like, if everything was perfect, we'd have fully staffed firefighters and then some. But help me understand where we actually need to be for the safety of all residents in the city of Muskegon. And those are the answers I'm still waiting for. And Greg, if we have time, because you have that professional history, I would love to hear, what you think about that, to better inform me as a candidate moving forward.
Call me. I'll give you the numbers.
Okay, I can't wait for coffee after this show.
Call me. I'll give you the
No,
numbers.
and I really, sincerely, Gregory, I hope you know, I'm going to appreciate that conversation, because it's very serious, and it's technical information that everybody really should understand more.
Now, everybody got this question too. Grade the city manager.
Like,
Overall.
just overall, I think we need to remember city management before our current city manager. And I remember when our current city manager came to town, it was exciting, because change can be exciting. I will give the city manager a B. I think overall we are in a better place now than we were when he arrived. Now, why is it not an A? This is a conversation I've had with our city manager personally and professionally. I think we can all appreciate sometimes things move too fast. And I don't think it comes from a place of malice. I think it comes from a place of excitement and seeing progress really happen and seeing attitudes and citizens change. That feeds the energy to keep moving onward. But as exciting as that is, we still have processes and procedures we gotta follow. We have to follow them. We have conversations with residents that need to happen. Our commissioners having those conversations, our commissioners being fully informed on how we're moving full steam ahead. And we can still move full steam ahead. There's nothing wrong, though, with just taking a breath sometimes. slowing it down, making sure we're fully ready to move on, without any repercussions, that everybody's on board and everybody understands. So that's why I will not give him a perfect score.
Okay, I think it's important that that we realize on the charter it says that the city manager shall report to the council.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this has been an issue, and especially with transparency. How do you think they handled the purchase of the cards?
I think the issue around the gift cards is why I'm going to give the city manager the grade I gave, right?
Mm,
What I will say though, and what I've heard other candidates on your show also say, so I think we're all in alignment. The intent behind that program was good. And the city staff behind it, like I can say for like I know as a person, no one knew what the next day was going to bring at the onset of that pandemic. And there was real fear in all of us. I think, were we all going to have a job? So what was the world going to look like? But I think we could all appreciate, particularly the small businesses in the city of Muskegon, that was a really freaking scary time for them. And they
mm,
didn't know, were they going to be able to maintain the staff or who had families or counting on a paycheck,
mm.
were they going to be able to do that? Were they going to be able to keep it up? Were people going to still buy their product or service? So I don't think anybody should be villainized for wanting to make sure all of this hard work we've all been cheering on, supporting these businesses, was in a way trying to be ensured that they would exist, right? For
Mhm.
whatever the end of this pandemic would look like. Obviously, we all learned it went too fast. That whole thing went too fast. But again, there wasn't a commissioner that voted on in favor of that. And one thing that's hard too, that I think is worth mentioning is I understand the frustrations of the businesses that were left out of that program from that first phase.
Of
There,
course.
but there was, I mean, I watched the meet. There was intention to go back and make whole the people, well, not make whole, but offer gift card purchases to the people, to businesses that didn't make it that first round. But by that point, things had to pause. So that didn't happen. But again, the intention behind it was good. The execution was where we fell apart.
Okay. I wanted to talk to you about um, coming from the chief. It used to be where they had one shooting a month or people shooting once a month, and then it became a couple a day, a couple a week. Now you're dealing with shootings, even though it's not maybe hitting each other, but we're dealing with shootings every day.
Mhm.
I bring that up. Our kids, now we had a leisure service department that made sure that our youth were busy.
Yeah.
Question one: should we have a leisure service department open up? And question two: uh, the other people said they leaned a lot on the boys and girls club. Do you think more should happen to our youth?
Can you explain the leisure service? What all they encompass?
Well, Muskegon County had a leisure service
Mhm.
department that did activities and
Okay.
stuff like that. And all of a sudden, we don't have a leisure service
Yeah.
department. And now, what's going on is that the city is relying on different entities, the schools, the
Yeah.
Boys and Girls Club. Do you feel that the city should get involved in bringing more activities to help our youth and raise our youth?
I think what I've seen so far and what I'm okay with is out of desperation, really. Like what we're saying, what we're hearing is not good. I think out of desperation, citizens are going to the city saying, "What are you going to do? We need your help. What are you going to do?" I don't think it's a bad thing that the city is looking at the local nonprofits, organizations that they're the experts in youth development after school programs. There's no reason why all of a sudden, right, the city's not going to suddenly hire someone to do that.
Mhm.
What I would caution against though is that there's a lot of organizations that can do that and they all have their own niche. So before we target in on just one, I think we need to make sure we're being fair to everyone who gets out of bed every day and is pumped to serve the youth in Muskegon, in the city of Muskegon. So if that's partnering with Muskegon Public Schools, if that's with the Boys and Girls Club, if that's with Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Lakeshore that often gets confused with the Boys and Girls, like there's more than one option in the city that I think should be pursued. As far as the makeup of our police officers, community policing, one thing I've been talking about and I've been hearing from residents is the absence of those neighborhood police officers. And Greg, I'm talking about officers that are incentivized to live in the neighborhoods, serve and protect. Because I know if I had an officer, little kids around, and all of a sudden, like I'm not seeing that kid around, you're gonna wonder, where are you? Making sure they're okay. Same thing with the neighbors though too. If we've got a neighbor that's got different needs than us and is never gonna respond well to loud noises, bright lights, banging on their doors, it's gonna be awesome to have a neighborhood police officer be able to intervene and say, hey, let me assist you on checking in on this resident. There's some special needs that we need to know about. So as creative as I know our city can be in incentivizing people to come live here, that's the kind of programming I want to be excited about. I want to see the return of neighborhood officers. And again, that's something I've heard from our residents, again, that they're excited about and want to see supported. So let's get on it. Let's do it.
Right. I have, let me see. Another question that we got was, how do you feel? Do you feel that the city of Muskegon has a good reputation of minorities, especially in high positions?
There's huge opportunity to have more representation of minorities and staffing positions, not only in the city of Muskegon government, but everywhere. And what I want to say respectfully too is, as a person of color, I don't see myself represented a lot of times in a lot of settings. But I'm not going to be upset about that and write it off. Like, what are the opportunities to make sure when employment opportunities happen at the city that those are well communicated? And I'm not saying that they're not now, but clearly we're missing people. And to me, my campaign has kind of boiled down to this issue, like, how do we talk to people? How do we make sure nobody's getting left behind? Because I think it's a real reality that people do feel left behind. And I don't need to argue with anybody about whether those feelings are valid, but I don't know what the answer is to making sure qualified candidates know about the opportunities available to them in our city government, but also in businesses in the city of Muskegon, because we want that talent here. We want them living here. We want them working here, and excited to do that. So if you are listening, please reach out to me and tell me, how do you like to be communicated? And I'm not even kidding. I've had people, especially in the Nelson neighborhood and their newsletter, I've been asking, we do door hangers. We have some residents in our neighborhood that have a block club. Like, let me know what works for you, because I know what works for me might not work for you, but I want to know all of the opportunities to make sure messaging is getting out.
Now, you campaigning out there, what are you hearing in the streets when you have a chance to talk to people? What are some of the main issues?
A lot of frustrations about everyday issues, Greg, of like within my neighborhood only. Like we have a beautiful street that really needs some repavement. And instead of just finally, like bumping our cars over it, we went to city staff and said, what opportunities do we have to resurface this road, right? Those are the real issues that I think get overlooked sometimes in the campaign. And like, that's the real help that I'm excited to offer our citizens. And a lot of it, again, back to communication, it's just not knowing which department they were supposed to call at City Hall. And wherever they started, it was a dead end, and they didn't have the confidence maybe to pursue that. And I'm not saying they should have given up, but it's helping them make that connection. And for me, following up to make sure they were heard. And honestly, Greg, I mean, a lot of those residents too are pleasantly surprised at the customer service they received and the issues being resolved. Or, just questions they have about, especially right now, like when are you supposed to put your garbage can out? Little things like that. They might be little things to us, but those are really big things that impact some residents every day. So it's been pretty eye-opening. Again, just connecting residents to their city staff that are there and happy and ready to serve them, and making sure they know that service is there for them.
Right. It's 2:41. Can you believe it already?
I can't. No, I can't believe it.
All right. Now, give us your big issues, if we missed them, why you ran and what we should attack.
Okay. Why I ran. Um, I've always wanted to run for something. Like I'm fourth grade student council, like I was on it. And guess what? I got 4 votes. And my poor fourth grade teacher, she tallied votes in front of everybody. That was really sad. I cried. But I just knew like this is what I want to do. I want to represent people. So it's funny now to hear from like my friends and teachers that like this is no surprise that Rachel's path led here. But what's exciting to me though is the politics we're seeing play out on a national level. I think it's frustrating for many people, no matter what side you fall on.
Mm-hmm.
The conversation often hear is, getting the young people involved, getting our youth mobilized and ready to vote. But the real reality of that is, Kurt Troutman, if you're listening, government at MCC, you can pretty much gauge voter turnout on age based on age. So me, I just turned 30. 30% of people my age are probably going to vote. That is ridiculous. But I think it has a lot to do with representation, what we're talking about, not seeing someone who represents them or looks like them in these positions of power.
Mm-hmm.
So early on in 2021, great, it just kind of dawned on me, no one was ever going to knock on my door and say, okay, Rachel, now is your time to run. There wasn't a reason for me not to run. And it's been the toughest thing I've ever done, but I'm so grateful every day for the opportunity because of the people my age that are voting in a local election for their first time. It's for people my age realizing how much of their everyday life is impacted by local government for good and for bad, but then also seeing them the realization that like they can be involved. There's committees after committees to serve on that
Right.
don't go served. And me remind I need your voice at that committee. Our community, your family, your friends, like we need your voice. So pulling in people and mobilizing them to be involved in local government, like that's what's so exciting to me, in understanding those issues. So those are the people on my worst days. Those are the people I remember. Like this is why I'm doing this because again, the Muskegon that I couldn't run away from fast enough in 2010 is long gone. The city of Muskegon we have today is something I think in our wildest dreams we thought, and we're not done. Like our best days are still ahead. And that is what's so exciting to me. That's why I want to be involved, and I want to bring my community with me, and help humanize that. So,
How can people find out more about you as a candidate?
you guys can find out information about me on my website. It's just electrachelgorman.com. There is a button on that website. You can send me a direct email. Many of you have done that. It's really me answering. I can't wait to talk to you. I want to hear what your issues are. I want to hear what your questions are for me. And we're getting down to crunch time. I want to make sure you have a plan to get that ballot turned in. If you're voting in person, making sure polls are open from 7 to 8. If you got an absentee ballot, you got time to mail it in. If you don't get it mailed in, you still have an opportunity to drop that off on November 2nd. So I want to hear what your plan is to vote. And I want to hear what you're excited about, what your biggest dreams are for our city, because we're going to make it happen. It's going to be awesome.
Lady J, we're going to go to a commercial and then we're going to come back. But Rachel, I want to thank you.
Thank you.
I am holding you accountable to calling me, and we have that conversation.
I'm texting you right after this. I'm not even kidding, Greg.
Okay.
All
well,
right.
give me the 301 so I can finish the show.
Yeah, I will. Okay, I will. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Rachel Gorman, thank you so much and have a good day.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, we have been watching Rachel Gorman. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about one of the most ridiculous things I've heard in a long time. So hopefully we have a commercial lined up and then we'll come back. You're watching Torn in 2 on 103.7 and M106.
The wait is over. The all-new Umoja Radio Network, home to over 40 Black-owned radio stations and podcasts, is here for you. Connect to the world's fastest-growing collection of unapologetically Black and proud media, from podcasts to independent Black-owned radio stations, and access to the important news and music you need. Umoja Radio is from our culture, by our culture, for our culture. The all-new Umoja Radio is available right now on Google Play and the Apple Store. Join the movement. Be empowered.
Thank you. You watching or listening to Torn in Two. Thank you, Lady J. On it. I mean, she's on it. We did that spur of the moment. I have to talk to you about an incident that happened in the city. Before I talk to you about that, if you missed any chance to see comments or interviews for city council, Heights Council, you can watch those on 106 Facebook, M106. They keep running the shows. So you can watch the mayors, anybody that's squared off. And I think we've been very fair of giving people time and asking the people the same questions so no one would have an advantage. Now, I have to talk to you about an incident that happened in the city. And let me give you the lowdown. In this city, a woman was raped. It happens every day. It happens more than you know. People that you know, sisters, even men, it happens to them. What makes this issue so much different? The woman was raped, and a lot of people were there, and nobody, let me say this again, nobody did a damn thing. Matter of fact, they're saying now in the news that 2 people might have recorded the rape. What in the world is going on in this world, in this country? You sit up there and nobody called the police. Somebody out there got tormented, and maybe 2 people just decided, well, I will record it, but nobody helped that person that got raped. What in the world is going on? What in the world is going on? The second issue that I want to talk to you about is that you hear the story of the woman that she disappeared, and a boyfriend came back home without her. They recorded their journey. Then all of a sudden he disappears. They finally found his remains, and they have to find what happened to him. Okay. Here's my opinion on that particular situation, that the media made such a big issue. Now, anytime somebody is missing, okay, as someone that cares and prays and love people, of course you want that person to be found. Now, if the person is found deceased, you want justice, you want questions, you want answers. But here's my feedback on that particular situation. It's happening every day. It's happening every day. People are coming up missing. People are just all of a sudden disappear, and they go into sex slaves and all kinds of stuff. But the media grabbed on the one issue and made that issue important. How about making the issue of a lot of people that are come up missing every day? And maybe they mightn't even know who even took them, but that's not necessarily newsworthy. Come on, news people, wake up. So my 2 things is, and I think it happened in Philadelphia, if somebody is being raped and you don't have enough kahunas to do something about it, call the police. But better yet, why don't you drop that phone and do something about it? Wake up. Oh my gosh. When I heard this story, I went ballistic that you will sit up and just watch this issue happen. And it's people, rape is serious. It's serious. And this thing of people being murdered by their spouse, their boyfriends or girlfriends, and disappearing. This is happening every day. But we have to get beyond just saying reporting on one couple. How about the kids and stuff that come up missing every day? How about the kids in minority areas that come up missing? How about the people that end up being shot and we don't have those cases solved? In other words, people, if you're waiting for somebody to help in a situation, why don't that be you? Why don't you, if you don't like what's happening in your neighborhood, why don't you? We're sitting up here. Can you imagine the person sitting there being raped and there's nothing but a whole bunch of people staring and nobody comes to your defense? Chivalry is dead. The death of common sense is gone. Wake up, people. I have 8 minutes to finish the show, and I just want to take it to another area. We've tried our hardest to contact every candidate in Muskegon and Muskegon Heights. Some of you say, well, why not the township and why not other areas? Because Muskegon and Muskegon Heights is the area that we serve. We try to serve everyone. If somebody did come on my Northern Shores, we would get them on too. But we service Muskegon and Muskegon Heights, and those are the people that we tried to get on. Here is a couple suggestions to those people that win, and a couple suggestions to the people that have to pick up those signs in the cold weather at nighttime because they lost. First, those people. I've been there. I've been there where it's the election night and you lost and you have to pick up those campaign signs and you feel rejected. My message to those people is to stay involved. It wasn't your time to win. Stay involved. Get involved in the city some kind of way. And this goes out to everybody. There are commissions and all kinds of seats that you can serve on to help the community. A planning commission, just all kinds of commissions that you can serve on. So do that. Number 2, read the charter for any candidate. If you're running for office and if you have not read that charter or know that charter, you better get on it real quick. Number 3, we told you to stay involved. We really need you. We need your help because you may not been a quote politician, or this is your first time running, but because of the age of, you look at what's happening in Washington and in Michigan and Muskegon, you look at the average age of people that serve on these boards, and they're older folks. We need new blood. So for you people that run, if you don't win this time, come back at it again. Now, for the people that win, again, read the charter. Know the city plan. Know all this information. And don't be one of these candidates that come around every 4 years and we only see you during election time. Set up a place where candidates, you can be met, seen, heard, and people can talk to you. And we don't want to see you every 4 years because things are happening in this community that we need for you to represent us, which brings me to my next point. Remember, when you get in office, it's not about your agenda. It's not about your agenda. It's about helping the people that you represent. Just a second. Michael Anthony Smith, Philly is sad. And in the 70s, the media made a conscious decision to show minority crimes and suppress white crimes. Missing persons were treated just the opposite. This all was started with the war on drugs with Ronald Reagan. Good point. Thank you. And guys, sorry that I sound like I'm reading in 6th grade, but I'm telling you, when you got bifocals, it's a mess. All right. Great point, Michael. Great point. What happened? That rape happened in Philly. But that kind of stuff, you not helping in Muskegon County when you know somebody is selling drugs next to you. Now, people say, well, hey, there's no job. There's a ton of jobs out there. Now, there are people out there doing their own hustle. Okay, you know what? If there's crime going on, if you live next to me, I'm calling the police. Now, if you're scared, you can call Silent Observer. But let's go back to Philly. If you see somebody being harmed, hurt, if you feel like your life is threatened, okay, well, call the police, number one. But number two, how about this? If it's a gang of you, if it's a bunch of you, go stop the rape. Please. People, wake up. Go stop. It should not be where somebody gets raped during a time and it was not late at night. It was not late at all. And we sat up and watched. And this is the stuff that's going on. People were so divided and so scared and so whatever that we will not touch a situation like that. It's not just happening in big cities. It's happening here in Muskegon. Okay. Last point to the people that will win the election. Make sure that the city manager or the people that is in charge, both Muskegon and Muskegon Heights have a city manager. Yeah, that person is in charge of the daily development and what is happening on a daily basis. But please remember that the city manager reports to you and not to himself. Do not let a city manager bring in a budget late and tie your hands. Do not let a city manager not be transparent. Please, people, you ran for a reason to represent us. If you ran for that power, then go take care and do your due diligence. Well, another end of the show. That fast. I want to thank Rachel Gorman for coming on the show. I want to thank Lady J, PA, just Q89 and everybody that helps. It's torn in two for this day. Go sow a positive seed in somebody's life. Go sow a positive seed in somebody's life. Take care. God bless.
The second annual I Am Her Feminine Hygiene Drive, supporting young ladies from Ghana, Africa in need of everyday essentials and feminine hygiene products, was a great success. Thanks to the generosity of our community and organizations like Period.org, Muskegon Heights Public School Academy, Confident Cosmetics, Muskegon Heights Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Inc., and everyone who made a contribution. Hundreds